couple things. I agree with the gentleman over here. It's we the people. However, I have to say I've been to probably 6 or 8 either city council meetings or planning meetings, primarily related to the Hayden Canyon development, where they're pushing as many as 7 units per acre. In the city council, on one city council meeting, they told everybody that came to complain about that to the city council, sit down, you can't speak today, even though it was a calendared item. Other times, they just blew us off during all the planning meetings when we expressed concerns about safety, against fire, against a number of other issues. Our concern sometimes is that even if we show up, and even if we express our opinions, we get blown off by the city council. Not necessarily you, that's not, I'm not, but that's what's happening, and people get frustrated with that.
I understand your frustration, and that's the reason we're doing this. We have to hear. We have to have the ears and be willing to listen to the people. The people determine our government, the direction we go. What is wrong? The Dalton Gardens, they define their community as being, I think it's a minimum of 1 house per acre. They could do it. Well, what's wrong with, and I'm not advocating we go 1 house per acre, I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with Hayden defining what it wants for the future. Now, what's past is past, and what's in place is in place. But we need to be looking at where our future is, and that's where the gentleman here talking about our comprehensive plan is critical, that we define that, we the people, what we want in that comprehensive plan.
Matt, how do we do that? How do we get the other 3 members and our mayor on board with this desire of we the people here? How do we get their attention respectfully and in a very civil manner? How? Please.
I think you heard your answer. Did everybody get that? November? And I think that our council members and mayor should be willing to listen to you and hear what you have to say, and then they get to decide how they vote. And like I say, I'm 1 vote, but it takes 3 votes on city council to make it happen, because if we have a tie, the mayor then votes. Yes, sir.
What is the process for repealing the comprehensive plan?
Well, the comprehensive plan is not a order. It is not a absolute directive that this is exactly what we're going to do. It's a plan, and a plan has to be adapted. It's a living document. I don't know that I like that term, but that's what it is, meaning at any time, depending on political circumstances, economic circumstances, catastrophes that are natural, we are then able to adapt that plan at any time. So it can be adapted at any time, but it takes the voice of the people to be able to say what they think and where we should go. And I know the argument I've heard as well, everybody had their chance to voice their concern about the comprehensive plan. Well, we had COVID. We had and not everybody had a chance. Or how many people were involved? I'm curious. Raise your hand. Were involved with input that was taken for the comprehensive plan. That doesn't represent our city, that many people. That's why it's critical what we're doing right now, that we have your voice, and those voices have to be heard by our elected officials. Now, they have to decide what they're going to do with that, though. Of course, there's consequences for that. Yes, ma'am.
So I was wondering how many people here got rezoning letters, and also, is it constitutional, or does it protect your property rights to have your own home that you're living on and paying a mortgage on rezoned while you're living in it?
The first question is, how many people received a letter about rezoning your property? So, a fair amount. Now, your second question, could you repeat it, please?
How does it protect your property rights for you to have for them to rezone something you're living in already and paying a mortgage on, for it to get rezoned while you're in it?
The question is, how does that rezoning protect your property rights? Well, the zoning allows you to do certain things based on whatever the zoning definition is. So your property rights are protected in the sense that you can do what's defined. By changing it, it could give you more options with the property, or it could protect your property more, depending on what your view of that zone change is. And I can't answer for you because it depends on your property and what it's currently zoned and what the change could be. I will say, part of my angst about the comprehensive plan was that I was not told that there was going to be this mass mailing out to all these property owners that there's going to be this potential for zone change.
How many letters went out?
Somewhere between 1,600 to 1,800, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact number, but my thought was, okay, well, the comprehensive plan, the goal was it'll provide missing housing, more affordable housing, and that sounded good. And I thought through a natural progression, if people wanted to change from certain zoning, they could go before the Planning and Zoning Commission on a one-on-one basis, like we have for years. I had no idea it was going to go out en masse and then have this, by the way, you have this option. If I knew that from the beginning, I would not have voted at all for the comprehensive plan. It is legal by state law, I know that, but that doesn't make it right. Yes? Okay, next question. Lady with the... The question is, what can be on the ballot? What do you want?
Advisory, an advisory, yes or no, whether you like it, is that the question?
Comprehensive.
I've been doing a little research on whether an advisory vote can occur. We know that an advisory vote can occur at the county level because the most recent one was the Prison Release Center. If you remember that, about 78% of the voters that voted no, we don't want one in the county. I've asked our city attorney, I'm not sure. I've asked the Idaho Association of Cities. I'm going to ask Jim Brannon, who's a friend of mine, who's our clerk, whether we can do that or not. Because again, it gives the voice of the people the power, and that's what they need to say what they think. So if we can do that, I would love to see advisory votes coming from the people on this November ballot. Yes, ma'am.
What will it take to have more town hall meetings with more of your friends in attendance so you can talk to more of your council members? How can the city sponsor one, or?
Okay, the question is, how can you have more meetings with city council members?
Right, like a town hall meeting like this.
Well, they just have to vote. 3 of them to say, let's do it. But right now, we only have 2 that support that. With tonight.
Tell her about the other last Tuesday night, and what he's saying is 3 have to vote for a special meeting. Explain that process.
Okay, so kind of what happened with this meeting is that it was a couple of weeks ago, the mayor agreed and said, we'll have a special meeting, because a town hall meeting is considered a special meeting because we have a quorum that meets. So it's a formal meeting for the city council. And so we were all anticipating tonight that we had a town hall meeting that was sponsored by the city council. And then Tuesday night, the mayor decided to change his mind and say no meeting. And he has, by statute, that ability to call or delete a special meeting. However, it takes 3 council members to vote for a special meeting. And so I made a motion and said I would like to have, since he canceled the meeting, I'd like to have a meeting. And I made the motion, and Jerry DeLange and I voted for it, and Roger Satterfield and Dick Panabaker voted no. So then that went away. So it would take, again, 3 council members to have another meeting.
Falling behind on catching up, but going back to November, it's not as simple as just vetting what they're saying. A habit that I've noticed in America is vote incumbent. That's not necessarily the answer. Just because they're there doesn't mean they're actually representing you. The fact that we can go to a city council meeting, but maybe we can talk, maybe we'll have parameters on what we can address, and let's make sure we only have 3 minutes to say it in, and we're also supposed to not antagonize the council. It's kind of hard to, tiptoe around the council and not hurt anybody's feelings when you've got to cram it all in a short period of time. Last time I spoke, I had to do it on Zoom. I had to maneuver a phone and Zoom because there was no audio on my Zoom, even though my computer's fine, or whatever app we were using. And so I'm doing all of this, and when I'm done talking, it's a little bit later. Now they're griping because we didn't, pussyfoot around and protect their feelings in a short little time frame. I already had to cut what I wanted to cover into about 25% of what I was prepared to say. So, don't just vote incumbent. This man called for a town hall. He had 1 council member. Everyone else opposed a town hall that we were already planning for. Is anybody here not from the area? Just a couple maybe? And at this council meeting, it was feared that this was going to be a political thing with a bunch of out-of-towners. So that was a good reason to call it off. No, that's not a good reason to disappoint us, we, the people. So that's the incumbent issue. As for this voting to have the town hall, I believe that it was handled in a way to take pressure off of our mayor. He's the one that made the meeting. Yay! But he took it away. He took it away 2 days before it happened. And I don't approve of the way that it happened. And our calls to have a town hall meeting were kind of negated by all this, we're canceling the town hall. They could have mentioned that, hey, we're still having a town hall. Whether the mayor's coming or not. And I'm glad he came, because I also would like to ask, with these 1,750 letters quoting the mayor that were sent out at the city council meeting, he said that they were clarification on existing zoning. He said, let me give you a quote. They had nothing to do with any, what did you say? The city is not soliciting. This is my response to you, and let me insert. This was a concerned citizen that took the time to write a letter, and he was laughing and mocking this woman's letter. I assume it's a woman. It could be a man, so don't hold me to that. But he says, this city is not soliciting. This denser populated neighborhood, am I wanting to die there? I bought my house in an R1 neighborhood. Everybody's R1. And it is that street right behind the park here on Cuff Road.
Tina,
Just like
Tina,
this guy.
can we have the question? Because I know there's some other people would like
Right.
that. So could you ask her?
How is that not soliciting a zone change and merely a clarification of a zone change if you have to take action to keep what you already have?
Good question. I told you I didn't like the letters. Next question. Yes, sir.
All of a sudden, I'm in an R1, all of a sudden I'm in a buffer zone now, and if there's a bare piece of property, they go in there and put so many people in there, in the residential, condos or wherever it is to put in there, and yet I find an incoming city a letter, all of a sudden, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Why is this being pressured? People are in R1, but now they're seeing these other stuff. What am I missing here?
Well, are you saying that based on the comprehensive plan that you're going to be affected by it in a negative way?
Now they're going to change to pull the city yard out, they say. They only have property on the corner to buy the city yard. They're going to put parks in there. This is commercial back there. Now they're going to put apartments in there.
They told us that our street was a buffer zone, so what's the buffer?
I'm sorry, but I can't answer because I don't know what the buffer zone is. And I have to follow. Well, I guess we'll take one more, Ed. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, your question, and correct me if I've got it wrong, is the question is how can we make the comprehensive plan a plan that the people want? Does that boil it down? You need 3 city council members for that to happen. November. November is your answer. If you want to change the makeup of the city council with people that support that thought, that's how you do it. We understand. Uh-oh. We have a doctor in the audience. Could you come up here, please? Huh? Okay. So we have a.
Let's stop and pray for her.
If you want to bring that up, yeah.
She doesn't really want a lot of attention.
Yeah. Okay, let's. We can continue on. She's being taken care of, and if you want, in your thoughts, you can pray for her. Anyway, are there any other questions now? Okay, so you had a statement. What's your question, please? Okay, so your concern or your question is, what can I do to change the comprehensive plan? So ma'am, your question, tell me if I've got it right, is you're being affected by the comprehensive plan and what you can do about it. Again, to get changes in the comprehensive plan, you either have the city council change it now, or if they won't, you'll have to find people and have them elected to city council in November that will listen and change it. The question is, why do we need 3 people to make a change?
We're here saying we don't want that comprehensive. How do we get it to where the people can vote? Right. Before November. Not now.
Well, yeah, the way it's structured is that the city council makes the decisions on this, and you as the voice will have to talk to the city council members that make that voice. You don't have a direct vote on that.
Anybody in the office that says they're gonna do it, and they don't have to listen.
True.
They don't have to follow through once they're in.
I agree.
It's very
An ugly situation like what's on Ramsey and Prairie on that corner there from happening to these people.
The question is what we can do about Ramsey and Prairie.
That's an example of what's gonna happen to these people. They're gonna have those ugly apartments looking right down at their backyards.
Unfortunately, that's a zoning issue, and if it's allowed now, there's nothing we can do about it. Yes, ma'am.
How do we get a hold of our city council members? I know there's one who doesn't have an email address. How do we get a hold of him, like to express ourselves?
The question is, how do I contact my city council members? And we have one that doesn't use email. You can call the city, and they will give your name and number to that council member, and then they will call you back. Or meet with you, whatever, it's their choice. Mike?
Yes.
Mike, please, your question.
Matt, I have one question. In reference to new development, who has to pay for the infrastructure?
Okay, let's take a new housing development. The city requires certain infrastructure be built by the developer, such as the sewer lines and sidewalks and right-of-way improvements that are required, and whatever frontage road requirements are. They pay for that. The capitalization fees that are paid by the builder to hook up to the sewer delivery and the sewer treatment are separate capitalization fees. The city does collect for those. Now, the concern is the impact that has on the city as a whole. For example, how do we...
And don't forget the county. Don't forget the county.
Did you hear that? Don't forget the county. The question is how... It's the impact, and that's my concern, is the impact that housing development has on our roads that are overtaxed right now. For example, we have about $55 to $60 million worth of capital improvements that are road improvements that we cannot fund. Now, some of those are to stretch out over time. We are trying to collect money for that, but for example, this last year we collected about 1.6 million in property taxes. And we have some money in our impact fee, our circulation impact fee fund, which I think is in a $2 million to $3 million range. That's not enough money to fix this problem. And that's my concern is if we can't fix the problem now with what we have, how are we going to deal with this explosive growth that's coming?
So is that what's happening to our property taxes going up? Are they using our property taxes for infrastructure, for new roads, or whatnot, for new development?
Well, your property taxes, to answer that question the best I can right now, would be that what goes into our general fund for property taxes is allotted for a lot of different categories. And road maintenance is one of them. We have again, a capital improvement list, and we try to get grants and impact fees on that, which is our circulation impact fees to pay for it. So a certain part of your taxes are paying for that growth.
And as far as infrastructure for jail beds and schools and what have you, currently no, but I have been talking to some of our state legislators to allow large developments to have a formula so that new development, anybody who moves in there, unless you're an Idaho resident, if you're coming from another state and you're moving into that development, those fees should go for the infrastructure costs.
How about simply just somebody new in the area and they build a new home? Would they be?
You know, that I don't see that as a problem. I see the huge high density and the large 500, 600, 800, 1,000 homes being built 10 feet from each other is really kind of a bigger problem. So somebody who buys 5 acres and wants to buy a home on it, I don't see that to be a problem. It's really the 500, 800, 1,000 home developments that are really just putting our numbers up there.
Now, the sheriff did mention something that's called Mello-Roos, and that is a concept or a reality that's currently being used in California. It's basically a property improvement district. In other words, say you have a 500-acre housing development. It's like creating another taxing district just for that development that collects taxes for the impact that that development has, and it can collect taxes for 8 or 10 or 15 years, whatever the term is. Now that is allowed in California. Whether that is allowed in Idaho is a whole other question, because we have a legislature that is reluctant about adding new taxes. But I think that hopefully through your voices, they would listen to, well, who's going to pay for the growth? And hopefully they're listening to that. Yes, ma'am.
Is anybody listening at the city council to this people that are, I know you are, but is the mayor paying attention? Are the city workers paying attention? Everybody over here is trying every day because the entire world is changing. My world is changing. I actually had to make a decision. I just wanted to get a hamburger and a Little Bear. There was so much big traffic out here. It was like easier for me to just park here and walk down to get a hamburger and come back and try to make it spin across. Is anybody listening to this group? And they look like they're listening. Is anybody hearing this group? No.
Okay, the question is, do we have our city leaders listening to the voices? And I guess my answer is, was a city town hall meeting called and was it canceled? Does that answer your question? I mean, if they wanted to hear your voices, we would have a town hall meeting. And that's what should be demanded, is if you want your voices heard like this, a town hall meeting structure is the very best way. And you know what? I greatly appreciate the civilness of this group. This is not a group that is out to hang people, that maybe you would want to. But you know what? This is healthy. This is what we need. This is a way that our city leaders need to be able to hear your voice. I mean, if they're not willing, they should be willing to listen to your voice, and I can't speak for them.
But does this make an impact having people like this show up on a Thursday evening to talk about this for a couple hours?
I think that the energy that is created tonight can move things forward if you keep your voices out there and continue to speak to the city council members, and they can either listen to you, and if they don't, then there's other options, and that's in November.
November is too late.
Mayor, excuse me. Yeah, I'm gonna stop you because you wouldn't allow me to explain my vote on Tuesday, and now be respectful, sir, because you are a mayor. But I want to hear the people, not you. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir.
Is the city planner here tonight? Hayden city planner?
No, if we're talking about Melissa Cleveland, she is not. I don't see her. One more question, I'm being told. Have you spoken yet? Okay, can I have somebody that hasn't? All right, two more. You and then you. Yes, sir.
What is behind the rezoning for the 1,750 properties? We're living right smack dab in the middle, and in our area, within a 3-block radius, there are at least 5 properties that have virtually nothing on them. And it's more like the city's trying to rezone them, so you're putting apartments in higher density for the city.
So are you asking what is the objective of the comprehensive plan? Is that kind of what you're saying?
You know, what's behind the rezoning? Because it's all solidly
Okay.
single residential.
Why is
now they want to rezone it for 2-family, 3-family homes because they see empty land sitting there.
So your question is, why is the rezoning occurring?
Yeah.
Okay. The rezoning is occurring because the comprehensive plan process through consultants and through our city planner looked at what's called smart growth, which is basically densify our city. And that's where it came from.
Well, if we're trying to stop this explosion in growth, then why are they trying to push for it?
We need the voice of the people to say what they want. That's the issue, and that's why you're here, is that they need to clearly hear your voice as to what do you want? The government is of you, of the people. One last question. I said somebody back here, please. Yes, ma'am. So your question is, do we have an environmental committee that looks at each housing development and well, you know, we have private property rights that people that own that property, based on the zoning of it, can do certain things. Now, when we, for example, if we have a housing development that comes before the city council, we do go out and send out, the city sends out letters to different entities to hear their, what they believe, what they say about that housing development. I know one of the, we do ask Fish and Game about the impact on wildlife. I've seen those kind of letters. So Fish and Game does have response to those development requests. But we do not have an environmental committee in the city. I'm done, so I'll give it to Ed.
I don't need that. Okay, thank you very much. thank you to all of our speakers tonight. Okay, we're losing the sun, getting a little windy, people are starting to filter out. So real quick, I'd like to kind of run over a few things here. I'm gonna skip by a number of things that specifically had to do with those of you who are members of the group and who kind of saw what is going on with the Post Falls Councilman today. Maybe you're aware or saw that little issue. But anyways, I'm not going to really get into that now. Let me see where I can get down to where. Okay. Well, the threat was made, I guess, so I need to talk a little bit about this, for him to shut down our Facebook group because he didn't like the fact that I blocked him because I got tired of him campaigning and speaking only to what he really wanted to. So he threatened to try and shut us down. Just in case, and I don't know enough about it, that he is successful in that in some way, you go to click on and all of a sudden our page is gone. More the reason to please go to rnigrowth.com, and I've got some bumper stickers and it's on the back of them. It's the website that's been started just in case the Facebook page for somehow or another were to become non-operative. Okay, so if you want to pick up one of those bumper stickers on the back, it's real simple. ResponsibleNorthIdahoGrowth.com, only it's rnigrowth.com. So please go there, just subscribe so we have a way to reach in case something happens. So, the comprehensive plan, that's what everybody seems to be talking about. How can we do this? How can we do that? The sun, okay, gotta hide from the sun here. And the like. You can't change it overnight. As much as some people are in a situation where it is scary. They see what's happening and don't really feel like they have any ability to change it. And people will come in and build before they can change it. Yeah, that's a scary situation for a lot of people. And the only way, let's just flat out, the only way, and it's already been talked about, is if you don't like what you're seeing, you have to organize as communities, blocks, streets, in your cities and whatever, find qualified candidates who are slow growth people. Not no growth, not stop growth, not shut the gate, not you're here already, so whatever, which is what you constantly hear when people try to tell us that we're full of baloney. Well, you're here now, so okay. I've been here 27 years. Some people have been here 10, whatever it is. Anybody who cares about this place, we want you to be a part of this, and that's all we really care about. Okay? So, but you need to get organized in your blocks, find people, and then the key is vote. What is it? 18% of the people vote. Stuff like that. And then you turn around and go, oh, how's this happening? Well, because when only 18% of the people show up, this is what happens. Okay? So if you want to change that comprehensive plan, if you want to do something about it, that's the only way that can happen. Okay? Let's talk about the comprehensive plan a little bit. The city's constantly saying, we held open houses, we held workshops, we had hundreds of people who told us what they want. And so this is what we did, and this is how we formed the plan. How many of you went to those workshops? How many of you even heard about them? How many of you knew when they were having them? I see 1, 2 hands. Okay, that tells me there's a disconnect between the communication. Okay, I'm holding here, and I'll read from it in a minute. You go onto the website, the Hayden website, and imagine Hayden on the right-hand side. Click down at the bottom. There's the Imagine Hayden plan and transportation and all that other stuff. But then there's something that says the public input summary, and it's a lot of information. It has all the information of what they would do. They would set up stations, and they would have their choices: smart growth, missing middle housing, and all this stuff. And they'd have the various types of housing. Well, here's some sticky dots. Put it on the type that we're going to give you the choices. You put it on it. What I didn't see at any of these, I went to bathrooms. I've seen Coeur d'Alene's. It's all the smart. It's the same posters, the same slides, the same statistics. So in the pictures I've seen in Hayden's, it's the same show. Okay. What I didn't see at any was a poster that said, let's use Hayden for an example. Current population is about 16,000 people. In the next 15 to 20 years, what do you feel would be a comfortable population to have? We're going to have growth, but to have some elbow room, some breathing space, to control the traffic and the like. I mean, for that. Okay, what would you feel is a comfortable population in 20 years if we're 16 now? And to give you the choices, put the little sticky dot. on 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Let the people put the choice of what they feel they want to live in the future, but you weren't given that choice. So anyways, they say that the people told us this is what we want. Well, those are the choices. They also in the back, starting on page 49, 48, 50, have the written comments that the people actually wrote. I'm just going to go through some of them real quickly. Probably 100 or so. Miss the rural environment of those early days, bothered also by the cost of growth. Do not raise taxes on residents. Budget for spending based on what you're already bringing in and save for future use where needed. Don't let developers overdevelop our town. Growth must pay for growth. Those who choose to develop need to bear the cost of park, schools, walking paths, infrastructure of all kinds. Don't make it like Southern California. I'm from Southern California 27 years ago, and that's what got me started on this, because I go through the prairie and I see what's happening, and I saw the same thing where I grew up, which was a once ruralish area with orange groves and olive groves or orchards, whatever they're called, open land. And within 10 years, it was wall-to-wall tract homes like you're seeing going up in the prairie. And they say, oh, it's not going to be like that. Bologna sandwich. Okay? In 20 years, if they continue doing what they're doing, it's going to be wall-to-wall tract homes, and it's going to look just like the place I came from. Okay? If you put 300 to 400,000 people in the county. Okay? How many of you are from California? Come on, admit it. How many of you are from Southern California or any dense area? I grew up in Whittier, La Mirada area, stuff like that. Is that place wall-to-wall people right now? Strip malls and everything else? That's what this place will look like. I guarantee it in 20 years if they continue along this plan. So, don't make it like Southern California. Invite those who fled California to give input. They have lived through the growth and its consequences. I wasn't here. I didn't write that. But somebody else did. Hayden will be another bedroom community with big crime problems and the current growth rate. I'm adamantly opposed to growth, particularly if it results in increase in taxes. How about focus on quality community rather than how many individuals we can fit in the limited space? I resent paying for growth so more outsiders can move in. Enough. I think growth is important to our economic engine, but it needs to be done in a way looking forward and with balance to have existing citizens pay their portion and growth pay their portion. I wish there was a way for developers to be responsible for paying for infrastructure instead of taxpayers paying for their greed and profits. I'm concerned about zoning. Zone it and stick to it. No grandfathering, no exceptions, no zone changes. In the last 2 years, I've lived through traffic, random home developments have escalated seemingly tenfold. I fear every inch of open land will now be turned into developments where the maximum number of homes are squeezed into what used to be open land. Such building gets quickly out of hand. When the developers are done, we're left as a community wherein no charm, uniqueness of northern Idaho is left. The overdevelopment segments make this beautiful town look like a nightmare of traffic congestion. Our area is doomed to be ruined by bulldozers and stacked houses. Don't overbuild the land. Make half-acre or 1 acre mandatory. It's time for the city to slow growth, not stop it. The city needs to catch up with the growth that occurred before encouraging additional growth. Growth needs to start paying for itself, relying on the current taxpayers to pick up the tab for the future. My strongest message is that the new residential growth must pay for all impact fees, including schools, fire, police, via special assessments to the developers, residents of their developments. No growth. Keep Hayden as it is. Please have contractors be responsible for traffic issues, parking issues, congestion issues, etc. Please keep growth very slow. Preserve the nature, the natural land and the prairie. Slow down the growth, stop the growth. Go back to the McIntyre plan before you ruin Hayden. Anybody know what the McIntyre plan is? I don't know. That's just a comment that somebody wrote on here that probably has lived here for quite a while. Okay, you can find this and you can read them all, but that is what the people told the city. Well, you read the comprehensive plan and see what's going on, and you make that decision for yourself. Okay, that's the thing about it. I know what my opinion is, and I express it on the page and everything like that. But I'm not going to tell anybody out there who to vote for, how to vote, what to think. You make up your own mind. You do your homework. You watch and see what happens, and then you decide what you think about it. Okay? So let me go on back here where we are. Now that I've lost my place. All right, hang on. All right. So that's it. We sell some light. Anybody want to make some comments or talk about the comprehensive plan and what I just said, or ask me or talk about anything?
What's your name?
I'm Ed DePriest. Is my name. Yeah. You raise your hand? Yeah.
You take the leadership, and we will be the people, and you can feed it. You can convene we the people, but you gotta step up and lead the damn thing.
I'd like.
Come and lead it.
How many people we have in the group? How many people follow the group on the page? Anybody have any idea what I'm doing almost 12, 14 hours a day? Anybody? How can I? Thank you, Art. Art, thank you. That's what I'm trying to do.
Wait a minute. Step up and do it, damn it.
Thank you, Ed.
I gave it up. Art, thank you very much. Okay.
Don't let him give it up because his group can lead and make we the people have a voice. Do it.
Yes, we can. Anybody else have any comments or anything they'd like to talk about or ask or bring up? Nobody? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Who's gonna be running in November?
Well, that's up to you people. Hang on a minute. But that's the truth. Okay, I've said this on the page and I say it all the time. I can't do it. I can't do it for Post Falls. I live in Hayden. I can't do it for Post Falls, for Rathdrum, for Coeur d'Alene, and all these cities are doing it. Coeur d'Alene's going to put planning for 85,000 people. Post Falls for 103, Rathdrum for 20, Hayden 35, 36. Up 300,000 to 400,000 in the whole community. Okay, but you people have to organize and find candidates. I can't go out there and say you're up.
But
Okay?
you don't know who's interested.
No, and we're getting there, folks. That's where we're going next. Okay, in what I have on my little paper here. It's the middle of June. Filing for candidates, I believe, is late August, early September. Those 2 or 3, 4 weeks, whatever in that period there.
August 23rd.
2 weeks, August 23rd to probably the first week of September. You have to identify people, step up yourselves, okay, and find people who are of like mind, who recognize what's going on. And the word I use a lot is passionate. Yeah, I'm passionate about it. Okay, it's important to me because, like I said, I've seen it happen before. I tell these people all the time, if you haven't lived in it, Southern California in particular, if you haven't experienced being in an area that has gone from a ruralish area with a lot of space, beautiful area, Southern California where I put that beautiful, but it was ruralish, it was open. If you've never experienced that transition over 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, into wall-to-wall tract homes and strip malls and the traffic and the crime and the crime and the crime and the crowded schools and the crowded everywhere you go, which we're noticing every time we go out, I go out on the street, okay? If you haven't recognized that, and I tell these people, you've never lived in it, you can't conceive of it. You can't understand what you're bringing, what you're bringing to the people. Oh yeah, man, it's utopia, we get it. Good luck if you really think that's the way it is. But getting back to it, ma'am, you and everybody here who really believe that something has to happen, you have to find the people to put into office. Come June, July, August, September, into that area, then more than 18% of the people have to get out and vote. Okay, that's the key. Yes, sir.